look at your marketing and your marketing efforts, and you're doing this and you're doing this, where are you getting a return?
Hi friends, welcome to Business Briefs. Again, I am here with you today, Girija Patel, your legal BFF, and I have an amazing, talented photographer, coach, Brittni Schroeder of Brittni Schroeder Coaching with us as our guest. And here at Business Briefs, we are taking bite-sized legal and business strategies and trying to help you grow your business and also just talk to you about what entrepreneurship looks like. So welcome to Business Briefs and welcome, Brittni. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Brittni, you and I met at a conference earlier in January, and it was a lovely conference. I think it was a great way to start the year also, especially after traveling and the holidays. But you and I actually met, and when I met you, I didn't meet you in your presentation because I was, I think, maybe giving a presentation at the same time. But we met because you actually have a nonprofit that you also run, which I would love to talk about that too eventually. But I want to hear about what you do today and how did Brittni Schroeder Consulting start?
Yes. So like you mentioned that I was a photographer. So that's kind of how I think I've always been like an entrepreneur at heart and always wanting to do this and wanting to do that. And after I had my kids, I had this mindset where it was like, I love being a mom and it is like my favorite job of all times. But I also am like, I don't want to lose my identity in motherhood because we see that so often. Like, I want to do other things. I want to help other people. And as I started to have kids, this totally ages me, but this is when blogging was just barely starting. And I'm like, oh, I want to blog. That's fun. And I saw these amazing, beautiful pictures. And I'm like, I want to learn to take like good pictures. And when I go hard. My background, funny enough, is in exercise science and health. Never used the degree, but I have it. So when I became a mom and then I wanted to learn how to take pictures. So of course I am like a sponge and I wanted to learn everything there was about photography. So I got a camera, like a professional camera, a beginner camera. And I started taking courses and classes and signing up at the community college. Anything I could find, I would take a class on. And I went to a workshop and on photography. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this as a business because people start asking to take their pictures when you have a camera. And I went to a workshop and I'm like, oh, I'm doing this as a business. And right around that same time we had moved, we were in Michigan at the time and we moved to Texas. And so I said, nope, I'm starting fresh and I'm going to start a business. And then around that same time, I also started Photography Magazine. So I was the editor-in-chief and I owned a photography magazine. And so that's kind of how my journey went. We were in El Paso at the time, where we get like 360 days of sunshine. So we were there for 8.5 years, thriving business, 6 figures, doing great. Then my husband gets a job in Houston and I'm like, oh, I'll just, I was like, maybe this is a good time to pivot. I was kind of on the fence, but I'm like, I'll do photography, but I don't know. And I did not realize that it rained so much. And I think it was a particularly rainy year though too. But then I was like, nope, this is a good time to pivot. I don't want to deal with the weather. And I also wanted a career where I could live anywhere and it wasn't dependent on being in like a location-based business. So I always said that business came more naturally to me than photography. I had to work more at like the creative side and the business was like just second nature to me. I'm very analytic. And whenever I was asked to speak at like photography conferences or write articles or interviews, it was always the business part. And so it just kind of came naturally. And I said, this is a good time for me to pivot. Like you had mentioned, I have a nonprofit. It's called the Compassion Club and I work with kids. I'd gotten certified as a life coach. I wanted some like mindset tools. And so again, I love to learn. Like I'm always signing up for something, and so then I just am like, I'm going to help people with their businesses. Like that's where like my passion is. I love to help people like grow and scale their businesses. I love marketing. I think it comes like very naturally to me. I'm pretty extroverted, so I'm a walking like marketing person, but that's kind of where I am. So now I help people, entrepreneurs. My main thing that I help them do is create automations and systems, marketing strategies, and then scale. So I help them free up time and then I help them to grow their business. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, I guess.
I feel like there's so much more to you. In addition to that, I think I was reading on your website only that you were featured in Wall Street Journal also. Is that correct? Yeah, there's so many more layers to you, Brittni. This is really like just the, above layer that we're talking about. But how did you even get into this space? Like, how did you realize that there was a need for your help in the email marketing space?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think by nature, I am like a helper. Like I want to help. I'm a builder and a helper, and I want to help people. And so I'm organized, and I'm like, I always say I'm like a time management ninja. And so a lot of times I find myself like looking at businesses and just saying, oh, you can do this so much more effectively. Or, you know what, like seeing entrepreneurs that are overwhelmed and saying like, it doesn't have to be this hard. Like you can do this without like sacrificing your personal life. And it's funny because I kind of joke that every like service provider that I work with, I'm always like, I need a business coach them. Like they need help. During COVID, we had our pool put in, and I kept telling the pool guy, you need to hire me. Like, you need to hire me because you can automate this. You're kind of an organizer. You're leaving money on the table here. And so I think seeing a need, and I think a lot of times what happens with entrepreneurs is they have this great idea or like a service or a product, and it's great and they're having success with it, but they don't have the systems. They don't have the strategies in place to actually scale. And I always say there's two reasons why small businesses fail. The first one is they don't grow fast enough. And the second one can be they grow too fast and they lose the integrity in their business because they can't maintain a high quality like service,
Mm-hmm.
And so I see that, all the time. I see entrepreneurs being overwhelmed, but instead of having a strategy, they are just spending time on social media. I think that's kind of our like default is, I don't know what to do. I'll just get on social media. And that's not the most effective way to market your business. And it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we see a lot of burnout with entrepreneurs. We see these short, like lived businesses because it's not a way to live. It's overwhelming. It's exhausting, burnout, all of those things. So that's kind of where I got into my gig, I guess. So
yeah. So when someone comes up to you and says, man, I'm feeling that burnout, where do you start with them? How do you start resolving and solving their issues?
So every business is different. Everybody runs different. Everybody uses different programs and different systems. And so one of the very first things that I do is I look at the client experience, because you can have a great product or service, but if you're not creating this experience for them, they can be put off. I'll use my pool guy as an experience. I'm very happy with my pool, very happy. But I was very frustrated, like in the middle of it when, I'm like, okay, there's all this trash in my yard. Like, when is it going to be done? Okay, when is he going to come get this final payment? Like, when is it due? And so a lot of times we don't remember the product or service, but we do remember how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And we remember like, oh, that was a great experience. That's the very first thing that we kind of tackle is what is this client experience and what can we automate? Good communication is so important. Yeah. So, I mean, how many times have we given our money to somebody and then it's like crickets? We want to stay communicating. We want to nurture those relationships, constant communication. There's no such thing as too much communication, right? And so that's the very first thing that we tackle is automating that. So then they feel confident that, hey, like if they're going to market and they're going to get more business, they can hold down the fort because a lot of these systems are automated. That's kind of the first thing we do. Then the next thing is the marketing strategy. Having a strategy, a lot of times entrepreneurs focus on like social media because that's an easy and go-to, but there's a lot of better options than just social media. You shouldn't put all your eggs in one carton. You have to have a strategy, like a good repurposing strategy where you're taking one bit of content, you're blasting it out, and you are spending time in your business on things that you're getting a return on.
Right.
And a return is not always money. It can be, you're getting a return on your time too. So I kind of just like pick through and just like, what can we fix in here? What can we make better? What can we make just easier for you to scale?
I love that. I have so many questions that are coming to my mind. And so I don't want to forget them. But you just said that return is not only money. And I think a lot of times we as entrepreneurs put metrics on money because it's easy to count. It's easy to kind of see the end result with that because it's tangible. But what are some other returns that we as entrepreneurs should be looking at as well?
Well, I think it's really important to, at least once a year, maybe quarterly, do like a time audit and just say, where am I spending my time and am I getting a return on that? So for example, I'll go social media because that's kind of an easy one. How many hours, be real with yourself, right? I think that we're all a little bit in denial when it comes to this, but you're spending 3 hours on social media. Are you getting clients from social media? Where are you getting a return? Look at your marketing and your marketing efforts and, you're doing this and you're doing this. Where are you getting a return? And wherever you're getting a return, put more energy into that. And I'll give you an example, just because photography is on my mind, because I just did a business photography retreat. Somebody can say, oh, I'm going to spend all this time on social media. But then when I sit them down, I can say, where are you getting most of your leads? Where are you getting your business from? And they can say something like, oh, I get a ton of leads from these wedding planners. Then I'm like, okay, then you need to invest your time and maybe some money on nurturing those relationships, because that's where you get a return. So put your time in to the place that you're getting a return on. And that can be effort. And that can be okay, once a quarter, I'm going to take my main referral source, I'm going to take her to lunch, or I'm going to send her a gift or something like that. But getting a return on your time spent, where are you spending your time? There's certain things I'm a big outsource. I'm a very practical person though, too. I'm not a huge risk taker. I'm going to throw that out there. And so I have never been the type that's okay, I'm going to throw $10,000 on marketing and fingers crossed that I get a return on that. I am as I make more and more money, I outsource more and more and I invest more and more. But another return is like newsletters. I don't enjoy writing. It takes me so much time. I'm not super confident in my grammar. Like I said, I'm left-brained. I'm an analytic. But so I can say, you know what, is it worth my time to sit down and write these newsletters when I can pay somebody to do it in half the amount of time I'm doing it?
Yeah.
Or what about, here's my favorite outsource, is getting a housekeeper. Can you take 8 hours and, can you make more money working in your business for 8 hours or cleaning your house once a week? That adds up. That's 32 hours a month. Really looking at the return on not just money, but the time spent on certain things,
I completely subscribe to that. I think for me, it's the same thing as if your hours worth so much, because most of us have this is what my hourly pay is or whatever. What is your return on that hour if you're spending it on something that you truly have to now teach yourself how to do because you know how to do, and it's not your zone of genius? And it's okay. It's okay to outsource if you have the money to outsource at that time. Tell me something. Why is email marketing so important? Because right now you were just talking about newsletters and, why is email marketing so important and why should we all have it?
Okay, here I go. Here's my soapbox. Getting up on the soapbox. Okay, so many things. Okay, so first of all, your email list is the one thing that you own. Meaning if social media could go away tomorrow, and if I had a quarter for every time somebody has their social media has been hacked or they've lost everything, it's gone. I'll give you a good story. I'm a storyteller, but I told you that I owned a photography magazine, and this was years ago. It was a lot of years ago, probably 15 years ago. And we had a Facebook page. Facebook was a newer thing, and we were building this huge following on Facebook. And I remember we released our first issue of our magazine, and it did so good. And the analytical person in me was like, oh my gosh, we're going to make so much money. If we made this much and this was our first issue, then our second, we're just going to keep adding and we're going to make so much money. Mm-hmm. We released a couple issues. It was great. We were seeing an increase in income. Then Facebook decided, hey, if you have a business, we're going to change the algorithm here. And your business page, and we all know what happened, is then the business page went from reaching everybody who followed us to reaching nobody because they're a business. They want, they want people to pay for ads, right? And our sales plummeted. And we had a huge following on Instagram. We had a huge following on Facebook. We had no email list. So from that point on, we never did as well as we did those first few issues. We had put all of our energy into growing the social media, and then it changed because we didn't own it, right?
Yeah.
So that's my horror story of like what happened. So just talking about just like numbers, right now, like we're feeling a frustration with social media. And I'll give you an example. I have around 6,000, 6,500 followers on Instagram. I can post on my story, and sometimes I'm lucky if I get 150 views on my story, right? I can post on my feed, and I'm lucky if I get 500 views, on my stories. Reels were like, they were doing good for a while, and now we're seeing like a decline because it's getting saturated. So, I mean, like do the math on that. Like that is such a low percentage of people that are seeing my stuff, right? Like I'm actually going to pull up my calculator because I want to tell you guys the exact percentage, what that is of my following. Whoops. So it's 500 divided by 6,500. So it's like what, 0.07. So what, 7%? Is that right? Is that right? Am I right? I think so. Anyway, low percentage, but they're saying on average, the percentage of people that are seeing our social media content is super low. I mean, we're talking between 1 to like 7 or 8% of our following.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about email list. So I can have that, say I have 1,000 followers on Instagram and, 1% of people are seeing my stuff. That's what, 100 people? Is that right? Am I doing my math right? Gosh, girl, I like you to touch me. But anyway, so
You're fine. We get it.
Yeah. Okay, you get the point. You get the point.
Yeah.
100 people see my stuff, right? That's at 10%, right?
Yeah.
So with email marketing, the average open rate of an email marketing is 30%. That's like 3 times what you're seeing, right. Even more if we're being honest, like even more than what we're seeing on social media. And so it has a way higher conversion rate, and marketing is becoming memorable, right? That's kind of what marketing is like, I might not need your services now, and I might not know anybody that needs my services now, but when somebody needs an attorney to write a contract, like you want to be the top of my mind. You want to, it's not like, oh, who's that one girl that I met at that conference? What's her name? Right? Like that's what we do. Mm-hmm. So, but marketing is becoming memorable, and that's showing up time and time again. So with that being said, 30% is an open rate, meaning people are seeing, like opening my emails, reading my content, but our behaviors, unless you're that person who doesn't like delete emails in your inbox, but I might not open your email, but I'm seeing your name every week if you're showing up in my inbox. So when somebody says, do you need an attorney? I'm just like, yeah, because I'm seeing your name all the time, right? I can follow you on social media and I may or may not see you, And so it's just marketing. It's just a way, like, it has a way higher conversion. Mm-hmm. There's a book marketer that I like, Russell Brunson is his name, and he writes a book called .com Secrets and Expert Secrets. He has a bunch, but he said that for every like subscriber on your email list, that should be the amount of money that you're making per month. So if I have 1,000 people on my email list, I should be making $1,000 a month. If you're marketing to them correctly, and if they are your like ideal audience, if they really are your like ideal audience. And I can honestly say I have seen a direct correlation. Mm-hmm. As my email has grown, my income has grown. I'm selling more, I'm marketing, I'm growing like my brand, and I'm growing that. So that's my soapbox with email. So.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. And aside from email too, I think if anything, we've learned now with the recent crash of the bank in Silicon Valley that a lot of companies that we might be putting our entire storefront on, and depending on that, third parties who are private companies also who have to run their own business, and their interest is in their business, not in you per se. Yep. You have to have your own website too. Email and website.
Yeah.
That is like your stuff. That is
Yeah.
like, your home and then your wallet. No one's going to come and get that unless someone's robbing you. And so
yeah.
I,
and if we had more time, I'd be talking about SEO too. That's my other.
I'm going to bring you back for that actually, because that's so important. But tell me something really quickly. So with email marketing, what are some of the best tools, not tools like software to use, or what are some tips that you can give us, like some takeaways on how to implement email marketing really well?
I mean, you have to, like, we're kind of protected with our email, right? Where the days of subscribe to my newsletter are kind of over. We have to give people something in return for their email. So that's why, like, doing like a lead magnet, and it depends on your industry. It can be, like a coupon code if you sell like a product. It can be a free guide. It can be, a checklist. It can be whatever. So you have to come up with like a lead magnet, which is attracting your ideal audience. So you want to make sure that it's like speaking to your ideal audience. And then, hey, in exchange for your email, I will send you this. And I actually have a list of lead magnet ideas I can send over, and you can throw it in your show notes if you want. But
absolutely.
So I have a list of lead magnet ideas that you can use. Other things that I like to do is, I love to do free trainings. And I think we get asked to speak, or we are offering free trainings. Don't just put it out there. Think twice before I'm just going to go live on Instagram, or I'm going to go live on Facebook. Think of a way that you can do it where you can capture their email address. And so just some ideas is hosting a webinar and having people register. Another one of my favorite tips is start a Facebook group and ask people for their email address as part of the questions. Make it private, ask them for their email address. So if I want to do, like on a whim, I'm going to do a training on how to create a reel or something, I'm going to say, hey, meet me over at my Facebook group. I'll do it over there. It asks questions. It doesn't make you do it, but most of the time people do give their emails. But just trying to like continually grow that email list and getting people's email list, in order for your trading. Like, it might be information, it might be a product, it might be a service, it might be a coupon code, but gathering those email lists. Try to convert get some of your following on your email list. So,
and then when somebody is starting a new business, or they're just like, oh, that's a great idea, I should be, talking to my community via email. How many times should they be emailing them? Once a week, once a month? Like, what's a good consistent email frequency?
I think consistency is more important than the number. So pick something that is doable to you. I do every week. I do every Tuesday. I send out an email. And again, I always say 80-20. Give them 80% what they want and 20% what they need. And so 80%, what I'm giving them is value, is education, is content. 20% is, hey, come work with me, or hey, I have a digital course, or my membership's opening. And so I think just doing it, for me, it's like once a week. I do batching. So I'm a big automator and scheduler. So I will plan out all my emails like a month ahead. So they're scheduled and ready to go. They go out every Tuesday. So I think just finding something that is doable to you. And at the first, it might be once a month, and then it might be twice a month. And then you can add to that. Write your emails like you're writing to your best friend, and think of it that way. That I think that a lot of times we think we need to have this big, profound email, but it doesn't have to be. It can be very simple, and mine are pretty short and sweet, but try to think of it as like you're writing to a friend. Like, what can you give them?
I love that. And then what automation tools do you use?
Oh, so many. There's so many good ones out there. I use Flowdesk for email marketing, and I have a coupon code. If anybody, I can get that to you too for 50% off. They are my favorite email marketing tools, and I've used a few. They have the most beautiful templates. I'm like a little bit of a snob because I have a graphic design and photography, but they're very beautiful, very user-friendly, very affordable. So you can do a lot of automations in Flowdesk. And honestly, it's not just Flowdesk. Every email provider has automations. People just don't know about them. That's kind of the problem, or feel overwhelmed with technology. But setting up like some automations that way. other automations you can do is, you can, like if you use a scheduling app, when somebody gives you their email address, you can add them to your main list or whatever. And a lot of programs have either integrations, or you can use like Zapier is one that I use, where Zapier is the program that connects a bunch of different programs to each other. It kind of like talks to each other. So, I mean, there's a lot of programs have built-in integrations and automations. People just don't know how to use them. So that's kind of the kicker of that. So,
yeah. So, but I think a lot of them also have some really great, for me, myself, the customer service usually is really good with some of these platforms. They'll answer your questions. Another thing is YouTube University. There's amazing information out there as well. If you are doing it on your own, even if you're not, just to have like a working knowledge, just as a business owner, is a really great idea.
Yeah.
A third thing is hiring somebody who is actually really good at using that tool or email management and things like that. So, but yeah, I cannot agree with you more how important it is. And, at the end of the day, even your email list is an asset in your business, and it adds value to your business. Sometimes companies are not making money, but someone is purchasing your company because of the email list that you have, because of the name. Yeah. And so that's a captive audience that you have right there that you can market to.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to add just one little thing to your last comment is I'm a big outsourcer. I've kind of mentioned that. I also believe, like, as a business owner, I think it's important to learn how programs work as well as you can, so then you can manage people.
Yes.
So, like, learn as much as you can, and then you're able to manage. I see so many times entrepreneurs are getting taken advantage of because ignorance is bliss, right? We don't, this is overwhelming. I don't know how to do this. I'm just going to hire it out. And then they hire somebody, they're paying like a ridiculous amount, and they can't manage them because they don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So I think learn as much as you can. And then when you learn it, then you outsource, because then you're able to know they're doing a good job too.
Oh, so great piece of advice, because at the end of the day, when you don't know, you feel like a chicken with their head cut off. And it's really frustrating. Sure. And it just, it kind of, you lose that control and you start feeling really restless. And then it starts showing up and manifests in different ways in your business. And it's not cool. It's uprooting the culture that you might be having or wanting to establish. For sure. Brittni, this has been so informative. Thank you so much for all the great information that you've shared with us, and all the tips and the tools that you've given. I am going to put everything that you've talked about and the links, if you want to send them over, I'm going to put them in the show notes so everybody has access to them. And what are some other ways to connect with you and to hear you?
So my main platform that I probably spend the most time on is Instagram, and you can find me at Brittni.Schroeder. And then I have a podcast too, Redefine Your Business, and then Redefine Your Business Facebook group. So those are basically the three places that I spend the most time on. So you can find me there. I have a membership too, if you are interested in, doing it like a do-it-yourself. I have a membership, and my doors are getting ready to open next month for that. So not next month, at the end of the next week, they are opening. So,
okay, nice.
But yeah. So anyway, so that's basically where you can find me.
Awesome. I love it. I would definitely urge everyone to go connect with you, especially on Instagram. You have a beautiful account. I really enjoy watching. And also you give so many tips on Instagram. So it's really cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I enjoy it for sure. So
thank you so much, Brittni.
Awesome. Thank you.